Hi, and welcome to the Breakthrough Emotional Eating podcast. My name is Kristen Jones, and thank you so much for joining me this week. We are so honored, y'all. I know sometimes if you're watching this on YouTube and you know I come on and it's not just me, it's always going to be a good time because I love having guests, and sometimes y'all just don't want to hear from me all the time. So today we are very, very fortunate to have Jeanine Ramsey, who is a returning guest. I only let very special people come on my show more than one time. So she is a returning guest and a client of mine. And we kind of chronicled her weight loss journey. And her weight loss journey actually with me started back, Jeanine, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was August of last year. August of
Yes,
last year
that's right.
was when we met. And and when did you decide? Y'all, I'm totally going out of order. I usually don't do it this way, but I'm just gonna start talking to Jeanine. When did you decide to actually, like, the decision was made to actually have your weight loss surgery?
I made the final decision around November.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
when we had first started, Jeanine was kind of in the contemplation part of doing the background, doing all of the work, and it is work, y'all. It is work to have
Yes.
weight loss surgery, and she will tell you about that. But then decided to have it, and so um, has been a client of mine, and really been working um, on her thoughts and on her brain and on understanding all of the things that go along with weight loss and that go along with having weight loss surgery. And so Jeanine made her first appearance here. She was just about to have surgery and then has since then had surgery on, I'm going to say March 13th, 14th,
14.
14th.
Yep.
Woo, I got it. All right. March 14th. And since then, so it's March 14th and we are September 8th. And I don't do math, so I'm gonna say that's what, 6 months, a little less than
Right at
six
six
months,
months.
right at 6 months.
Mhm.
And since surgery, because you lost 25 pounds prior to surgery, so since surgery, what is your grand total that you have lost?
My grand total for everything is 80 pounds.
80 pounds. Okay.
Yeah.
But obviously the majority of it came after your weight loss
Mhm.
surgery. So
Mhm.
if I'm gonna Kathy, I know that you're listening to me as I talk right now. I'm not sure if you can go in and if you can find the oh, what's it called, the episode that when Jeanine first appeared. We'll be able to drop that in the chat for those people who are live in the Facebook group, and we'll also have it for those of you who listening on the podcast. We'll have it in the show notes, so you can listen to the first episode and hear where she was, and then find out, and then today's episode will make a lot more sense. So Jeanine, what for you? And you and I have talked a lot about this. What for you was the most well, first off, how did the surgery go? Why don't you tell us, can you tell us a little bit about what your surgical experience was like? Having, and you can tell everybody what kind of surgery you had and then what your surgical experience was like.
Yeah. So I had the gastric bypass, also called the Roux-en-Y procedure. Um, I had he's a great surgeon. And actually, I had no complications. I was pretty normal course and have done really great since then, too.
Hmm.
So I was blessed there. I was only in the hospital overnight, got to go home the next day, was really in the hospital less than 24 hours. So that was great.
Hmm.
Um, and I was off of work for 2 weeks. Now I work from home behind the desk. Um, and I had originally planned on only being off for 1 week, but it wiped me out. So I had to be off for two.
Hmm.
Um, took probably about a month to get my energy even started coming back.
Hmm.
Um,
What was the course for you when you came off, when you left the hospital? You what were you it was liquid. I know you had liquid food. You had a very specific regimen that you and a routine that you had to follow post
yeah,
surgery.
every program is different in what they require from their patients, but in my program, they base preoperatively off of your BMI,
Hmm.
and they calculate how many days you have to be on liquids before surgery. It's a minimum of 5 days. For some people, it's as long as 21.
Hmm.
I was one of the lucky ones. I only had to do 5 days. And then I was on liquids for another 2 weeks after surgery and went on to soft foods, which isn't a whole lot better um, after that 2 weeks. So it was a whole month and a week before, it's 5 weeks before I got to go back on any kind of regular food.
Hmm. Hmm.
And preoperatively, that sounded really intimidating.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Just thought that wasn't a problem.
Hmm. Right. So what did you find to be the most, like, initially right after you had surgery, what was the most challenging thing for you when it came to just your day in, just kind of like your day out, day in and day out existence?
Immediately after surgery, it was all about getting in water,
Hmm.
liquid, to keep myself from being dehydrated. So the first thing my program asks you to work on is as soon as you're done with surgery, sit, puff, and walk are the three directions that they give you. Um, so that you're not developing pneumonia, you're staying hydrated and starting to recuperate. So at first it's water. Once you're able to keep in 64 ounces of water a day, then you work on protein.
Hmm.
And in my program, with what I had going on and where I was, I have to get anywhere from 60 to 90 grams of protein a day. So the first follow-up appointment I had was the first week after surgery. So at my 1 week appointment, they said, "Hey, you will look great. You're keeping your fluids down okay. Let's work on getting your protein in." That was a challenge
Hmm.
because it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but then again, my stomach was so much smaller
Hmm.
um, and I didn't feel hungry. Um, so I had to make myself do it and kind of put myself on a routine. Then once you conquer getting in enough protein, they allow you to start adding in other foods.
Hmm.
So it slowly has progressed with time, but I was the person that always saved my meat for last and ate vegetables and everything carbs first. So this
Hmm.
was an entire 180 from what I was used to, and it's
Hmm.
been a big adjustment.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So we got that part out of the way. So that's like, that's
Yeah.
the food stuff. So talk to, and I would love for you to share with everybody, what was for you the biggest psychological, like, change that what was the thing that you had to kind of, for you, what did you have to work on? I mean, because we had already been working on understanding, how your brain works, and understanding, you putting yourself first. But what were the things that you really had to start paying attention to as your recovery started and you started interacting with people, and then you were losing a lot of weight? There was all these different things happening. So can you share with everybody what were some changes that you had to make in your own life, just from that standpoint?
I couldn't see the change in myself at all.
Hmm.
I looked in the mirror, I saw the same person. I knew that the scale was changing because I was weighing once a week and I still am, and knew that was happening. My husband was like, "Wow, you're losing weight pretty fast." I don't see it.
Hmm.
And until you made me take a side by side picture, I still didn't see it. And we
Right.
put that, I think, in the group. But um, that one was really the biggest obstacle, and I still struggle with that a little bit.
Hmm.
The picture that you shared last week
Hmm.
before we were supposed to have this, and I
Hmm.
apologize to everybody. I had a lot going on last week in my family. Um, that picture was taken at a work function where we all got together, and we all work at home, so we don't see each other very often. And when my coworker handed my phone back to me after taking the picture, I had to do a double take because it didn't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first time that's happened, and that's been a real adjustment. Um, and I've been going to the same hairdresser for probably, oh, I don't know, almost 20 years now. And she didn't notice. And I didn't tell her I was having surgery because I already knew that she wasn't a big supporter of the surgery. And I just didn't want to listen to
Mm-hmm.
what she had to say about that because I had done so much work to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just waiting. Um, but I didn't buy clothes for a long time. In fact, I didn't buy clothes until, well, you prompted me to go.
I'm not very nice. I'm not a very nice coach.
No, you're a
I
great
make
coach.
I make people do uncomfortable things.
Yeah, but it's for uh, our best interest.
Right, right.
And my husband was saying you really need to go because everything is looking so big. So in her defense, everything I was wearing was still the stuff that I had had preoperatively.
Hmm.
When I finally went and got new clothes, the first time I went to see her wearing the smaller clothes, as soon as I walked in, she was like, "Oh my gosh, you've lost so much weight. When did this happen?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it matters. People have a hard time noticing when you're still wearing all your old, I call it the old uniform.
Hmm.
Um, and my approach when I went shopping was I'm going to get some color. So here I sit in the white, but it's cut flowers on it. I never would have done this before.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I've come a long way. I can see now the changes in me, so that's huge.
Right. Right.
Really
Exactly.
huge.
How what has because your husband does a majority was does most of the cooking. So
Yes.
how have you had to change your not only obviously like not what you eat but how much you eat, but how has that changed the dynamic of your relationship because of the fact that he's the one who's doing the cooking and that's kind of his love thing. And so
Mhm.
but how, because that's something I think that you have been very, very firm about, that there are certain things you can do and there's certain things that you can't do. And there's
Yeah.
a line in the sand and you don't cross that line.
Yes. Yeah, and that was hard. We went through a little period of adjustment on that because I've always historically been his taste tester when he's in the
Hmm.
kitchen cooking. And I told him, I'm going to have to stop. If you do that to me, I won't have any room left for any meals.
Hmm.
That will be my meal
Right.
because it's all I can hold. So, and that was a big adjustment for us at first. And then he couldn't figure out, how much to cook because he was used to cooking these big meals, and kind of hurt his feelings when I told him there's things I can't eat right now. And there's
Hmm.
still some things I can't tolerate because your stomach changes after the surgery.
Hmm.
Um, so we had to just kind of work through that and take it a step at a time. He still has his moments when he's like, "Oh, let's have, something fried." And I'm like, no, I can't. No. And so we just have to work through it, but we're learning to talk more and
Hmm.
better about those things. And he's doing really well in terms of accepting what I can and can't do now
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
why, the
Hmm.
why of why I can't. It's not
Hmm.
that I just am being stubborn, but he really gets it. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And so the 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 whole other thing that we've been working on is that the understanding the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger, and understanding that those things are very, very different. And recognizing, and just so you just I think everybody I want everybody in the audience to know that I think sometimes people think that you have weight loss surgery and like that's the answer, and that the weight loss surgery is like you have it and then everything is so easy from there on out. And you have to understand, Janine and I were doing, we did 6 months of coaching prior to her surgery. She still sees me once a week for coaching, and we work on, we talk about a variety of things. We never talk about food. We never talk about that. But we talk about the things that are going, and and y'all, she's had a lot of stuff going on in her life. There has been a ton of stressful things that have happened. And what I think, what the thing that I'm just so proud of her is that it's not even a thought for her to turn to food anymore. It's just not even, it's not even an option, but it's because she's learned how to recognize her emotions, recognize her feelings, and be okay with dealing with them and feeling them. And I think that that's the piece that for a lot of people is missing. If you don't have that understanding of your emotional piece, it's very easy to kind of fall back into the same patterns that you've done for most of your life. We've joked about that. It's again, people think that it's easy. It's an easy surgery, and it's something that just kind of that anybody can do. And it takes it. There's so many dynamics involved. And you have a pretty big team that you worked with at, Janine had her surgery at Vanderbilt University, which is also where she works. And so can you talk about a little bit about the support that you got from the Facebook groups that you're in and things like that, the support that you've gotten as you've moved through the surgical process?
Yes, so Vanderbilt does have its own support group. They've got their own Facebook group. We have meetings on a regular basis. They have a psychologist that works with the team, as well as a program coordinator that works with everyone. And you have to do a lot of work beforehand. So I was in the program for 8 months before I wound up having surgery. I didn't know I wanted to have surgery when I first went to the clinic. I joined the medical weight loss side first. So
Mhm.
I had always said I didn't need a change to my anatomy. I needed a change in my brain. And unless they
Mhm.
were going to do brain surgery, that wasn't going to work. But what I came to learn from the clinic and from my own doctors that I saw beforehand was that I needed both, because I had so much going on with my health, um, and so much working against me genetically, medically, and the medications that I was on, that my body was never going to be able to do this by itself.
Mhm.
It was to that point. And I regret that, because I did that to myself
Mhm.
with all of those years of emotional eating that I've done.
Mhm.
Um, And so I knew I wanted to work on that first. So I joined some bariatric groups on Facebook. I was thankfully someone in my group at Vanderbilt mentioned the breakthrough group and got me turned on to that.
Mhm.
And so I came here, but the group at Vanderbilt's really great about giving you a heads up about everything that's going to happen with surgery, being there to support you through that process, and reminding you that this is only a tool.
Mhm.
And it's all about how you choose to use that tool as to whether you will be successful or not. I was always thinking to myself ahead of time, well, a tool is kind of a weird way to describe it. But now that I've had it and I'm a little ways out from it, it is absolutely what it is.
Mhm.
Yes, they anatomically changed my stomach. It's smaller. I can't hold as much. So the great thing about that is I'm having this conversation with my brain about we're not going to do this today. I can also add in, because my stomach's not going to let us, and we're going to do what my body wants to do now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm thankful for that, because that tool is helping me make this journey a little bit easier.
Mhm.
But I cannot tell you how many people, and I've mentioned this to you, Kristen, in our group at Vanderbilt, has come back after the surgery and said, I think I've made a mistake. I am so sad. Life is so different. I can't have the foods I used to have before. My friends are all able to eat whatever they want, and then I can't. My one girl was crying because her family had gotten fast food one night and she couldn't have it. And it just astounds me. I wanted to say to them, "Where have y'all been?"
Mm-hmm.
And so you and I talked about this the other day. Even in spite of all the work that they've done at Vanderbilt, I still think that there are things that they could do better
Mm-hmm.
to equip people for what's going to happen after the
Right.
surgery, because that primal brain is still with you and those
Mm-hmm.
conversations are still happening. And I'm still having to use all these affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
I told you my whys, I wrote those out when we first started.
Mm-hmm.
I keep them next to my bed and I'll look at them every day
Mm-hmm.
to remind myself of why I'm doing all of this. And you're right, life happens, life doesn't stop. I
Right.
got lucky. I had a lull in my life that was just long enough for me to have the surgery. And then, boy, it cranked up probably
Mm-hmm.
tenfold.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so much going on. My mom lives with me and my husband and my son, and she has Alzheimer's, and she's gotten a terminal cancer diagnosis since
Mhm.
my surgery. My son is going to have some surgery. Um, just one thing after another, it seems
Right.
like. My
Right.
husband was in the hospital. He has some new problems going on in his health, and it's
Mhm.
just, they are all on my wise list.
Yeah.
I did this to be able to be a better mom, wife, daughter to them.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now I need to be
Yeah. Yeah.
more
And
than
you are.
ever.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And you are. Absolutely. Absolutely. So to anyone who is thinking about, possibly going down this route of looking into, because I know that, I mean, I'm quite sure there are many people in the group that would consider doing weight loss surgery if that was something that was available to them. What would you what would be your what would be your words of advice to somebody who's just considering it?
Um, it's a great tool, but you still have to put in the work.
Mhm.
And unless you're willing to do that, it will not be successful. And one thing I know is that I'm going to be putting in this work for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
And yes, I've lost 80 pounds. Am I done? No, I've got more to go. Um, I plan to get there. I know that there will be stalls because I've had a couple already, even though I'm
Mhm.
doing so well. But I think if this is something that someone's thinking about doing, that, you know what, people put a lot of stigma around weight loss surgery.
Mhm.
It's not fair. Um, I think it's a huge blessing to be able to have, because had I not had this opportunity, I don't think my health would have been good at all by now.
Mhm.
I was heading down a path where I felt like I was dying.
Right.
And even though the doctors couldn't find anything, that's how I felt every day.
Mhm.
And I feel so much better. And I think, I put myself on the back burner for so many years and just refused to take care of myself. And I'm so thankful to have that second chance.
Mhm.
But more importantly than losing the weight is going through all of this work, with my mind, to learn to love myself and to
Mhm.
know who I am and what I want and what matters to me. Um, and that has been tremendous. So anything you can do to give yourself that opportunity, I would just encourage you to do that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Invest in
exactly.
yourself. I tell myself that every day. I am investing in me
Mhm.
because I'm way overdue.
Right. Well, and I think that's the biggest change that I have seen in you is in you relaying, stories about, things at work, things at home, things with doctors that you have to deal with. You like you are right there speaking your mind, saying exactly what, I mean, you don't, you don't wait for other people to dictate what you're going to do. It's like you come right out. That piece of you has changed so significantly since we started working together. And I feel like, to me, like that piece is like, I mean, I love the 80 pounds. I think that's just amazing. You look phenomenal. But to me, it's the person and the glow that I see in you, and the happiness. And again, it's not like her life is like a Harlequin romance, y'all. It is not, it's not, it is not smooth sailing, but, but you're able to deal with everything that happens. And it's because you have this belief in yourself. You have this confidence in this, and this love of yourself, and that you will always be putting, you put yourself first so you can be there for those people around you. And that's, to me, that's the change that I think is just so significant, and that's the one that I love the most. So
Doing all of this work it's helped me find my voice.
mhm,
Because one of the things that I did with my emotional eating was shove that down,
mhm,
and bury it under all that food and all that weight. And I don't know what I was saving it for. Um, a lot of it was not having to deal with emotions and experiences that I didn't want to deal with. And now I'm learning that, you know what, it might be rough, it might be really bad, um, but it is not as bad as delaying it for later.
mhm.
And it never will be. Just facing things head on
Yeah.
is so much better. And it really takes a lot less time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I went to my doctor the other day and I was giving him a list of things I wanted us to look at and talk about with my health. And he said, "You have never had this conversation with me before in all the years you've been coming to me." He said, "I'm so excited for this."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that is, and again, that's the piece of how much, and advocating for yourself and becoming your, your own biggest fan, really is is what is the key. And that's really, you've done so much to take care of yourself, and be able to, um, be able to just move forward, and again, take care of yourself, take care of your family, all of the wonderful things you've done. I would like to, does anybody who's live in the Facebook group, live in the Breakthrough Emotional Eating Community Facebook group, anybody does anybody have any questions? I know we have some comments here. Does anybody have any for questions for Denise, sorry, Jeanine, about, I saw a name on the board there, and my mind went, that anybody who has any questions about, about surgery, about, kind of uh what her, what kind of what her process was, anything like that. If you have any questions at all, please drop them the um in the comments. Deborah, way to go. Nice. You've lost 35 pounds now. That is excellent. Very, very good. Um, one of the things that Jeanine and I talk about, a lot is the 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 difference in her, in that has happened because of understanding her value, and understanding her importance, and that she matters. And I think that is, if there's anything that I would want anyone who's watching, or anyone who's listening, to take away from this, is that didn't come because of the 80-pound loss. That came because of the work that she did on herself, her on her mindset, on her belief in herself, on understanding who she was, and understanding what she wants. And again, as we say, the surgery was the tool, but I think that the work that she's done, and it has not been easy, the work that she has done on herself has been the catalyst, and the thing that's really made the most significant difference. And Jeanine, I should not be speaking for you. I'm sorry, but that's just, for me, from my vantage point, that's kind of what I see.
That is so true. You see some of these ads for some of these diet plans and different things, and they talk about, well, I just dedicated myself to this, and I just lost all this weight. My life is so great. Well, if I hadn't done the mind work, what would
Mhm.
have been great is I'm wearing a lot smaller clothes, and I physically feel better.
Mhm.
But nothing else would have been different in terms of how I think or how I am. And I firmly believe that if I
Mhm.
hadn't done this additional work, and I would have been one of those people saying some of the things I'm seeing these other people in the group that I'm in say.
Yeah.
So that just it makes me so thankful to have the opportunity to have done this ahead of time
Mhm.
and not be trying to tackle it on the back end
Right.
because it's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I was so fortunate to be able to have a little bit of a foundation laid down before I
Mhm.
went through the surgery.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we do have some questions.
Good.
What type of meals do you eat?
Well, I can eat. I say I can eat anything, um, but not very much of it.
Mhm.
So that's the thing. I have to get my protein in, and I know that. And one of the things that they tell us to do is you cannot drink anything for 30 minutes before you eat or 30 minutes after you eat. Because if you drink before you eat, there's not as much room for food. And if you drink while you're eating or right after you eat, it flushes everything through and you
Mhm.
don't get that benefit of the absorption that you need.
Mhm.
So the longer that you spend eating, the less time you have to get in your fluid intake for the day. So that's really crucial. So what do I eat? No fried things. And it's not because they told me I can't, because they didn't, but it's because I don't want to risk that because it can make some things can make you really sick, and you have to be careful with the surgery about that. Sauces are one of the things that I struggle with.
Yeah.
And Kristen can attest to this. On Memorial Day, my husband made ribs and he put barbecue sauce on them. And I tried that and it made me sick.
Mhm. And it
And
was
that was
not
a
like
no.
and it wasn't like oh, and I'm better in 2 hours. Like, it took you a
No,
couple of days to, like, recover from that.
yeah, it was bad, really bad.
Yeah.
And and a lot of this is trial and error on what works for your body and what doesn't.
Mhm.
So you introduce one new food at a time. So I have to eat my protein first. So I'm choosing fish, chicken, beef, pork, lean cuts of all of those things, and I get that in first. Then I'll go to vegetables. I really don't eat bread anymore
Mhm.
because I never have room for that. Carbs have to be the very last thing
Yeah.
that I go for. And I usually don't have enough room to eat very many vegetables right now. Now, over time, that's going to change. I'm only 6 months out, so I'm still adjusting. I don't eat over a cup of food at a meal.
There you go. That's I think that's probably the main question.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the main question.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And I will tell you all, Janine's very careful about again about the introduce when she introduces something new. She's always at home,
Yes.
and we don't take a chance on like going to a restaurant and eating something because she just doesn't know how she's going to respond.
Mhm.
She just has to be very careful, has to be very self-aware, and be really cognizant while she eats as well, being very
And
present in the moment when she's eating. So
absolutely, very present. And one thing that I will say is whether you've had the surgery or not, the best advice I can give you is I go to restaurants, but now I check the menu before I go, which I
mhm,
never did before, but I could have done all along. And I decide what I'm going to eat before I go.
mhm,
So I'm not sitting there trying to figure it out in front of people that might not understand.
right.
Um, and it gives me an opportunity to look at things and choose the healthier options.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, the options that are gonna be best for your body and how it's
Yeah,
gonna work for you. Absolutely.
exactly.
All right, second question. Do you wish you had done the surgery a bit sooner, or do you think it's been the best timing for you?
I think things work out in God's timing.
Hmm.
Do I wish I'd done it sooner? Yes. I do not think I was at the right place in my head or my life
Hmm.
to receive it before. My doctor had mentioned it to me years ago. And I said, no, not me, not doing it, not
Hmm.
going to happen. Never say never. Um, yes, I wish I'd done it sooner, but I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And so this was the right time.
Absolutely. And I will say that when Jeanine came for when she started coaching, she was ready. I mean, she was absolutely very, very certain that this was what and she knew. She came in knowing, like, and hadn't even made the decision about the surgery yet, but knew that she needed to work on the mental part of it. She knew there was something else. It wasn't just about, what she was eating. There was this emotional piece that had to be worked on, and she knew that. And so she came in very, very ready and very willing to work and put the time in and did all the things she needed to do. So yeah, yeah, that was it. Definitely, I think your timing was absolutely perfect.
Thanks.
All right, next question. Do you eat more often than 3 times a day?
I do not. Um,
There's no snacking, right?
sometimes, uh-uh,
No, I didn't think so.
no snacking. No, they really encourage us in our program not to snack if you can help it. I am a
Oh, I
diabetic
love
and
that.
I'm on insulin. I know
I
you
love
would be
that.
surprised, y'all, how much is in line with what Kristen teaches us. You have sound principles about what you should be doing nutritionally.
Hmm.
And so, never hesitate to recommend your program to anyone because of that.
Hmm.
Um, but no, I don't snack, and I do eat 3 meals a day. Sometimes I have an issue with nausea every now and then where I don't feel like I want to eat anything, and I'll have a protein shake instead of a meal.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll do that if I just don't have time. So Kristen's coaching session is right at my lunchtime. So sometimes she'll see me with a protein shake just because it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't take you away from your work day or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
And one thing that's happened with my surgery is I don't feel hunger at
Hmm.
all.
Hmm.
Now it may come back at some point, but I'm just never hungry. So that kind of helps with the snacking too.
Yeah. Yeah. How, Leslie, and I think I know what you're asking here. Believe you're asking about diabetes. So she asked, how is your diabetes now?
Yeah, great question. So I was on all kinds of medicine before surgery. I was on 3 different pills for diabetes. In addition, I was almost taking 100 units of insulin a day. Um, I got off all the pills before I left the hospital. We thought I was going to get off of my insulin. I came out of the hospital off of it. I had to go back on it because after a week or so, my blood sugar started going up again. But what my endocrinologist has said is I was a diabetic for almost 20 years before I had this surgery, and it's damaged a lot of the pancreatic cells
Mm.
that make insulin. So whether I'm going to be able to get off of insulin altogether remains to be seen. My endocrinologist is very optimistic that I will be able to as I get more weight off.
Mhm.
So fingers crossed, but I've gone down from 100 units a day to 25.
Oh, wow. That's
And
amazing.
sometimes, yeah, and it's a sliding scale. So I don't always take 25 either. And as I lose weight, um, that's been coming down. So it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Um, what kind of protein shakes? I think you do the pre-made ones, right? Don't you? I think you do
I
the
do the
store-bought.
pre-made ones just because I've got so much going on with my life. I don't have time to deal with it. I use Fairlife. Um, Fairlife Nutrition Plan is as they have one called Core Power, but it's got more protein in it. It's got like 42 grams of protein. Your body cannot absorb that much all at once. Um, So I use Fairlife because it tastes like the chocolate one tastes just like chocolate milk. It doesn't have that aftertaste that a lot of the protein shakes have.
Mm-hmm.
Premier Protein is my fallback if I can't find Fairlife.
Good.
Those are
Okay.
my two. Those are really the only two I like. And
Yeah,
I
you have to
tried. I
be.
feel like I tried them all.
Yeah, you have to be careful with the protein anytime you get. I think the rule of thumb is, at least this is what I remember. What I remember people telling me and experiencing myself. Anytime you're over 20 grams per serving at one time, that's when you start to cross into the chalky. That's when the
Yeah.
chalkiness starts to come and appear. And so anytime if you have 40, if you're drinking something that has 42 grams, it definitely, and if it doesn't have a chalky taste, whew, I'd be all over that, because yeah, it's very easy uh,
Yeah.
for that to happen. Yeah, and it does not taste good.
No, 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 not even a little bit. No.
Yeah, yeah, no. All right. Well, Jeanine, as always, I love talking to you. Thank you so much for, I think what you were able to share with everyone was so important. And I have to tell you all, I will be completely transparent that prior to working with Jeanine, I was not, especially given what I teach, I was not necessarily a proponent for weight loss surgery, but what I like anybody else, I can change. But I realized after working with her and after seeing how what I teach kind of really greatly supports a person who's going to go through weight loss surgery, and that I really believe that any person, regardless of what kind of way you want to lose weight, you have to do the mental stuff first. You have to do the mental work. It has to be there. It has to be happening first. And so I don't care what it is. I think the way the thought work and understanding your brain, understanding your emotions, and getting down on a really cellular level about how you feel about yourself and your value and your worth, all of that has to happen. It has to happen for with any weight loss, procedure, plan, program, whatever you want to call it, because that I've been talking about a lot about that being the missing piece. That is the missing piece that so many people are not, that most people are not talking about, is that missing piece of what is happening in our brain that's causing us to have the best of intentions and then going completely the other way. Well, it's not because people are weak. It's because we're not understanding how our brain works. And so those two things, if you want to do anything, those two things have to come together. And I feel like, and so I definitely am, and Jeanine and I've talked about it a lot. I'm very much a proponent now of weight loss surgery done in a way that is best for the client and best for them to be able to move in a direction of having it be something that's permanent. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that Jeanine is going to keep all of her weight off and is going to she's going to get to her goal and is going to stay there. So, just because I know what a strong person she is, and how much she is always working on herself. And that's really what it always comes down to too, is we always have to continue to work on ourselves and continue to grow, continue to learn, because there's always something new we can learn. So, Jeanine, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy that you did. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me, Kristen.
Abs-
I love you and I really appreciate sharing with everyone. So thanks.
Absolutely. You are a ray of light, sunlight in my week. That is for sure. All right, everybody, have a speaking of that, speaking of rays, well, it's not speaking of rays of sunshine. I just thought I remember this. For those people who are in the Facebook group right now, and if you are listening to this either live or on recording, on Monday, the registration for my upcoming challenge. We're doing a challenge in the group, September 19th to the 23rd. It's called Breakthrough Your Brain. And it is all about the thought work and the work that I have been doing with Jeanine for the last 6 months, and not 6 months, last year, not 6 months. It's been a year, last year, as well as that I do on the regular with my clients. That's what we're going to be talking about. It's going to be all about the brain and all about how the brain connects with with weight loss and with emotional eating, and how all those things have to go together, and really helping you understand and giving you some really solid tools to start using in your daily life. So that starts on the 19th to the 23rd. The registration opens on Monday, the 12th. So if you are interested in getting in on that event, that challenge, if you just want to put the word challenge in the comments, go ahead and put challenge in the comments, and I will absolutely send you that information on Monday, and you can go ahead and register. I will tell you, there will not be anything other than me just posting maybe the registration link in the big Breakthrough Emotional Eating group. I am opening a separate pop-up Facebook group for this challenge. So nothing will take place in the big Breakthrough Emotional Eating group. It'll only be in the separate pop-up private Facebook group. So if you want to get in on this and you want to know all the things, you got to come over and you want to be in that group and in that actual challenge. So again, just put the word challenge in the comments and I will hook you up with that information. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this, day, night, whatever. Go out there and be safe. And thank you so much. And Jeanine, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, live.